Hello, beautiful people. Today, we're going to be looking at a low investment cheese strategy that you might be able to use to get 3 stars on Chamber 12-1 of the Abyss. Before we get into the strategy itself, I want to make it very clear that it's not something that everyone's going to be able to use. It heavily relies on owning Venti and Kazuha, and also benefits a lot from owning the Viridescent Hunt, the Battle Pass bow. So because of that, you might not be able to use it, but I figure I should still make this video for those who are able to use it. Also, the animal units that are using this comp need to be within 20 levels of the enemies they're fighting in order to crowd control them properly. So you'll need both your Kazuha and your Venti to be at least level 75 for this to work. That said, let's get right into it. Ever since Kazuha's release, I enjoyed the fuck out of playing the Thundering Fury set on him. While Electro Swirl doesn't actually trigger the 4-piece effect, swirling Electro onto a target affected by another element can trigger Electro Charge, Superconduct, or Overloaded, which will trigger the effect. It's generally pretty difficult to consistently trigger Superconduct or Overloaded, because one of the elements is generally going to overtake the other, or someone other than Kazuha is going to be the one to trigger the reactions. Electrocharge, on the other hand, since 2 auras can coexist on an enemy, the enemy can be affected by both Hydro and Electro at the same time. It's actually really easy to trigger Electrocharge multiple times in a row with an animal unit. The comp we'll be looking at today has Kazuha with the Thundering Fury set. It has Fischl for the Electro application, Barbara for the Hydro application and healing, and Venti to group enemies together and apply Viridescent Venerer. Honestly, this is a comp that is completely and utterly dog shit in single target situations, because most of the damage comes from swirls, and swirl actually does less damage when it's only triggered on one target than when it's triggered on multiple targets. With that in mind, I figured I was gonna try it on the second half of 12-1 to have some fun against the Fatui enemies in there, because honestly, I cannot stress this enough, this comp is insanely fun to play. And that's when I noticed something. I was actually getting a lot of instances of fall damage. After noticing that, I figured, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna try clearing 12-1 second half with only +0 artifacts on all the units that actually deal damage in this comp. And so, I did that. I had +0 artifacts on my Kazuha, except a +16 Geo Goblet because I didn't feel like farming the Thundering Fury set and I just didn't have enough pieces. But I think it's still fair to say a +0 set, considering it's a Geo Goblet on Kazuha. I had +0 artifacts on my Venti, except for a +4 Flower, but again, similar thing. I'm getting flat HP, 1 substat, not that much of a difference. And I had no artifacts whatsoever on Fischl. I did my run, and lo and behold, I actually got a clear in 1:38, which is almost enough to reach that half of the 3 minutes available to get the 3 stars on a chamber, and it's definitely enough to get 2 stars. And again, let me remind you, this is incredibly low investment. I don't have artifacts on my Fischl. The only unit that has actual proper artifacts is my Barbara, and let's be real, it's a fucking Barbara. On top of that, realistically, if you own a Venti and a Fischl, you'll probably have at least somewhat decent sets for them. And it really doesn't take a lot of resin to get a +0 Thundering Fury set if you don't care about the main stats for your Kazuha. So that means that if your Kazuha and your Venti are already high enough level to crowd control the enemies, it's very possible that you can use this team and reach a speed fast enough to get 3 stars on the chamber with less than a day's worth of resin investment, which is pretty incredible. So now that I've told you why you should honestly consider going for this comp, let me go a little bit onto how it works. If you're on the Thundering Fury set, you get to use your E more often, which means you get more fall damage procs. The general rotation you want to aim for is you want to start with Venti's Burst, then you Hydro Infuse it with a Barbara normal attack or E, then you put down Fischl's Oz, whether it be through her skill or Burst, whichever one is available. Then you use Venti's E to trigger the Viridescent Venerer effect, because, for those who don't know, that actually doesn't trigger when he's not on field when the swirl is happening. After that, you're going to use Kazuha's Tap E, then Burst, then Tap E again. After that, you'll be in downtime. You can use a Viridescent Hunt coupled with Venti's E and Kazuha's E to get more procs. And when your Venti's Burst is back, you just start over. One small thing that is worth a mention is that when you use Kazuha's E, you should just wait a tiny bit, honestly, like a tenth of a second before you do your plunge attack in order to let the Thundering Fury's set cooldown, which is 0.8 seconds, actually go through before you trigger your next reaction, or else you might actually find yourself not getting a Thundering Fury proc. I don't want this video to be any longer than it needs to be, so that's basically it. As always, leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment telling me how your day was, and finally, farewell, beautiful people.